Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codispoti, and today's guest is Chris Gannon. He is the founder and CEO of Bolay Fresh Bold Kitchen, a fast casual restaurant brand launched in 2016 and headquartered in the West Palm Beach area of Florida. They focus on 100% gluten-free bowls, fresh ingredients, and bold international flavors, with a mission to fuel communities to live healthier lives. Now, under Chris's leadership, Bolay has grown rapidly, earning praise for its clean menu and hospitality-first approach. Chris co-founded the company with his father, Tim Gannon, who was also a co-founder of Outback Steakhouse. He traveled extensively, collaborating with top chefs to bring fresh ideas to Bolay's ever-evolving menu. Not only is Chris a seasoned entrepreneur, he's also an accomplished athlete as well, having been the second youngest player ever to win the U.S. Polo Championship. His diverse background in restaurant innovation and healthy living has made Bolay a standout choice for those seeking flavorful and nutritious meals. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by my company, Add Back Benefits Agency, where we offer very specific and unique employee benefits that are both great for your team and fiscally optimized for your bottom line. Imagine being able to give your restaurant employees free access to doctors, therapists, and prescription medications. And here's the fun part. The program actually puts more money into your employees' pockets, and the company's too. One recent client was able to increase net profits by $900 per employee per year. Results vary for each company, and some organizations may not be eligible. To find out if your company qualifies, contact us today at addbackbenefits.com. All right, back to our guest today, CEO and co-founder of Bolay, Chris Gannon. Thanks for making the time to share your story today.
Oh, thank you very much, Anthony. Super excited to be here to share a story and inspire somebody, because we've all been inspired along our journey to be where we're at. So I think it's important to pass that, pay it back, pay it forward.
I like that.
Yeah.
So Chris, we covered in the intro there, your dad was a co-founder of Outback Steakhouse. So it sounds like this was probably the environment that you grew up in. Safe to say that the restaurant business was in your blood?
It was. And I love every aspect and watching my father create greatness with his wonderful partners and take a brand and culture and grow it. And he always said, Chris, don't do this business. It's the hardest business in the world. And I ran from it. I was a marketing executive, tried the professional polo player route, but there's something when this business is in your blood. You can run from it, but it pulls you back in. And I'm so blessed to be still part of it, because what we're able to do for our team and our guests is hopefully we make some money along the journey, but it's a very rewarding industry of what we're able to accomplish. There's a lot of gratification.
So you tried to run away from it, but at some point you came back to it. Where did you first cut your teeth in the restaurant business?
I would say Outback Steakhouse, right? I was a busser when I was very early on, and learned, they almost didn't hire me in the early days, Anthony. You have to be 3 restaurants of experience where you could work at Outback, and I didn't have that. I was young. I was just my father's son, and I never utilized that card. So I almost didn't get hired, but I convinced the manager that I would work harder than everybody else. And we did a great job and learned a lot. And then I think where I really cut my teeth, though, was when I asked to get back in the industry, but I didn't want to work underneath my father, because I don't think right at a gate you should work for our families. So I worked for an incredible restaurant group called True Luxe Steak and Seafood, based in Austin, Texas, underneath Stuart Sargent and Dave Tripoli's leadership. And there I learned, I went right into fine dining. So I truly learned, ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen, and the art of getting to the word yes, and all the fun that comes with fine dining service and execution.
So you didn't play that dad card when you got your first job at Outback. So they had no idea that your dad was one of the co-founders. You just used your good looks and charms to go in and say, hey, I know I don't have the requisite experience, but I'm going to outwork everybody. And they saw something in you and they let it happen.
Yeah, well, I think they knew. They kind of knew.
Okay.
And I think obviously the last name in the early days was a pretty dead giveaway. But I was still convincing. And I still have a great relationship with that proprietor these days. And I think I did a good job because I know that, when you're the owner's son and so on and so forth, you have a bullseye in your back. And I always tell my kids, they're only 6 and 9, but when they're in the restaurant, they got to be 110% because you're wearing a proud name that you have to set that bar high.
And then you mentioned something about another job that you took. Good point that, not great to come in and just start working right under the family. Go out and get some outside work experience. Sometimes as kids, we're a little bit more receptive to teachings and lessons from people who aren't our parents. Plus, I think there's the added benefit of being able to bring in some outside ideas, some new and fresh concepts that, weren't there before. Is that kind of part of your thinking too?
Yeah, 1,000%. And I think one of the cool things that I didn't realize now as I'm a CEO of a company, bringing in some powerful other leaders into our ecosystem, is it brought my father into their world. So my father inadvertently was giving them some great advice on different desserts or how do you do this better, this and that, and just that inspirational thinking we all derive from, you never know where. But no, I'm a huge believer that you got to cut your teeth outside. Uncle always gives great advice versus dad, right?
And what did you mean by you learned the art of getting to the yes?
Especially in Truluck's, we had a mission, and it was from the moment that you pulled up to that restaurant, the valet station, that the valets tried to make sure that every experience was possible, best in class. You got to the word yes. Yes, we can take care of your car. Yes, we can do this. To the getting in, to the quoting of the times, to the service, to the last moment where you leave the restaurant and the hostess is greeting you with a goodbye and have a great evening, right? Your last part of the experience. And then the valet as well is trained in that hospitality and that ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. So if you have that entire journey from the moment you pull up through your whole meal to the moment you leave, that's what we call that when it all comes together like a perfect symphony. And making that happen, and as you know, in this industry, Anthony, day in and day out is the hardest part. People don't realize, and it dawned on me the other day of why the restaurant business is so much more challenging than the other business, because you have to be excellent and great on hours that are not normal to us as human beings. We are trained Monday through Friday, 8, 9 a.m., whatever, till 6, 7 p.m., and then you're off the clock. In the restaurant business, no, 6 o'clock at night, you're just starting for round 2 of the day, the dinner PM service. Sunday morning, we have our leaders and our people are in walk-in coolers, checking in produce and getting the shift ready for the day on a Sunday when other people are just going to church or enjoying their days. So you got to remember, we have to be great in the non-normal hours. And that's hard. Not just manufacturing or loading buses and trucks and whatever may be, and not knocking on any beautiful industry out there. But the restaurant business, we have to be on our A game, taking care of others during those non-hours. And that I thought about that the other day, and it dawned on me why our industry is so much more challenging than others.
What do you think that taught you, those early days with Truluck's? Having to be on your A game all the time at later hours?
When you're in our business, you just kind of get into it in a rhythm and a focus, and it's showtime. I always tell people our business is like putting on a show, and those curtains go back and you start welcoming in people, guests into our buildings. You put your game face on and that's what you do. And I think it really starts with making sure, like every business, it's all about the human capital, the talent, but making sure that we really select individuals to join our team, select talent that truly want to serve others. Because that's what the restaurant business is. It's the act of serving other human beings. And if you don't want to serve others, you're not in the right business. Go get in tech or construction. Our world is all about service.
Now, you're not in the fine dining space anymore, and we'll kind of get to where the whole idea to start Bolay came from. But do you find that those same principles are things that you're looking for in the people that you hire?
100%. And I think that's what sets us apart, is we look for individuals that want to come in, and we put our interview process. Our new leaders can't believe how challenging our interview process sometimes, because we do want to make it a challenge to get an organization. We do want to make sure we're finding the best of the best to go win. I mean, that's your professional football team. They got scouts out there putting you through the ringer to join the team. We're trying to look at it the same way. Look at every aspect. Who are you outside of the organization? Who are you inside the organization? And how do you talk to our team? How do you talk to our guests? Because we have a sacred brand to protect. And it was born on the back of a napkin in an airport with my closest friend and my wife, the name. And I never realized how important the brand becomes. We had an idea. I didn't understand until now the transformation of an idea on a napkin into what is now becoming a brand that is a sacred thing to protect.
Tell us about that napkin. Where'd this idea come from?
Yeah, so we were running, I was managing a fast food restaurant, franchisees with my father. And, I just kind of got tired of serving fried chicken and so on and so forth, and felt that we could bring a healthier kind of fuel food to the industry, but it had to taste good. That was the biggest thing, Anthony, was we wanted to make sure that our cuisine not only fueled you, so you didn't have that after kind of lunch crash, right? As we all feel by eating food. They're like, oh, I want to go take a nap. Ours, we want to energize you, inspire you. But it has to, for my New Orleans roots and great flavor, and my father with creating the Bloomin' Onion, the flavors had to be great to where people talked about the food and what it tasted like. So they would come back, and my father always taught me it's the comeback flavor, making sure that our flavor has that comeback to where you want to come back again. We can't just make you happy once. We got to make you happy over and over and over again. And so, yeah, we created the name. If you want to try and create a business these days, and even 10 years ago when, we're almost rounding 10 years, it's impossible. Every name is taken, or it's a slang word for something, or it means something in different language. So we created it. And it came from the idea of, the Bolay sunglasses, and then bowl, because it's going to be a bowl restaurant. And then I think someone said Olay to have fun. And we were kind of just spitballing over a beer. And I wish I still had that napkin. I have a picture of it, of drawing that out of the word. And then we circulated through friends, and people started adding stuff above the Y and how it symmetrically the B and the L kind of flowed. I mean, it was just fun. I mean, those were the magical days of the creation that you don't have the capital for agencies and, professionals. You just figured it out. And so between, good old fashioned Google and social media we had access to, we figured out a lot of stuff, and it just, it rhymes, Bolay and Bolay all day. So one of our sayings now is Bolay all day. So we say Bolay all day as our cheers, and guests say it. And it's really just been I look back on it now in 10 years, and it's gone by fast, and it's been a wonderful ride.
So that's an interesting story on how you chose the name. How did you actually choose what was going to be served inside the four walls? How did that come about?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So ironically, at the same time, we were like, we're going to create a concept. I'm not a chef. I can tell you what's right, what's wrong about a food. I can tell you the flavor profiles. I've dined at restaurants all over the world, from being, international pole player, and lived in, 9 countries, and around my father and watching tastings and all that. He just so happened to come across this wonderful chef in Aspen at a small little diner. His name is Martin Oswald, and Chef Martin. And he was written about in the book Eat to Live by Joel Furman. And my dad created a relationship with him. He had this amazing 100% gluten-free, what was it? A blueberry pie that he made with a crust that was from walnuts, I believe. I can't remember exactly. But it was amazing. And so we had him come down, and he created this menu that was just off the charts. Now it's pivoted and been adulterated and here and there, tweaked, I guess, for scalability in some aspects. But for the most part, the original recipes still stand. I mean, the coconut infused black rice with the kaffir lime leaf. I mean, we just, our lemon chicken sauce. It's just been, amazing creation brought together.
And why was 100% gluten-free important to you?
Yeah, that's the funny question. At that time, I don't know if it was because of seeing the success of it on the Tito's vodka. Who would have ever thought gluten-free on a vodka, right? It just stuck out. It was different. It was unique. So that just kind of connected. I didn't have a gluten sensitivity. I didn't know what gluten was. I didn't know much about it, right? And so over time, we've even analyzed, do we need to be 100% gluten-free? Can we be gluten-friendly and blah, blah, blah? And we've, even through COVID, and we were trying to figure out everything, we leaned in and we kept with it. And it's just been something that, as you know, the celiac and the gluten intolerances now with our very messed up food supply chain. And I've got so many great stories of kids coming to our restaurants and having allergies and being able to eat everything on our menu and looking up at mom and the mom saying, hey, pick whatever you want. And they can't do that at other restaurants, right? They're always siloed to different things. How many people have come up to me and said that it's helped with their children's behavior at school when they eat better food and so on and so forth. And obviously we make our food taste great, so the kids love it. And for me to go into a restaurant and see, our youth eating broccoli and actually liking broccoli because we make it taste great is really powerful, and so that's why I say the reward of what we're accomplishing, by not only creating, a business that's got scalability, but also the give back to humanity and society by bringing something that's actually better for you than, something not better for you.
More processed. Yeah. So I've never had the opportunity to visit a Bolay's, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners haven't either. Can you explain what the customer experience is like? I walk in to one of your restaurants and what do I notice?
Yeah. So we're all over the state of Florida right now, trying to go nationwide at some point. We only have guests. We do not look at our customers as customers. We look at them as guests. And that started from my fine dining and even my roots back in New Orleans of taking care of others. And it's truly a big part of our experience. But when you walk in our restaurant, you're going to get great smells, from the Chargrills to the high energy music, because we believe in human energy. We've got big fans that create energy and great colors and so on and so forth. And then you're going to go down the line and get to choose. You create your creation. We've got chef creations that are designed for those who don't want to kind of be adventurous and choose. And then we have, you have your bases that are many different options to choose. Then you have roasted vegetables, char-grilled proteins. We have oven roasted salmon. We've got many different forms of chicken. We've got a beautiful steak that we sear to perfection. And then we add a combination of toppings, whether it be an avocado topping or seasonings or herb seasonings or cheeses. And then obviously we have some great in-house made sauces that you just bring it all together. And that's the beauty of Bolay's. You can make so many different combinations to take you so many different directions from a cuisine perspective. So you don't get bored coming to Bolay. And we like that, right? So you can not eat the same thing, just come in and try something new.
And how many locations are you up to right now, Chris?
We're blessed with 23 locations all over the state of Florida, all the way from Gainesville down to South Florida. And just go ahead and throw it in the old Google and it'll bring you right to one of our locations if you're ever in the state of Florida.
And are these franchises or are these all corporate owned?
Yep, all corporate owned at this time. We've been asked by many people to franchise this, and we've politely declined that because it's not in our DNA. However, at this time, we are open-minded to finding great regional partners to help expand our brand into, for example, like the Northeast and the New Jersey or the Carolinas or Texas or so on and so forth. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a change in our mindset these days.
Why the declining of the franchise opportunities? You say it's not in your DNA.
Our concept is because we're so chef curated, if you will. All of our menus take so much. It's not like you're just pulling food out of a bag and putting it in the oven or something and serving it. Everything's made from scratch every day. And that's a challenge to do consistently. And so if you're not like a restaurateur or from the restaurant industry, we don't know if people would be able to follow because of that, right? I mean, obviously you can put so many things in standard operating procedures, but there's certain nuances to our world that you really have to have the years of experience, we believe, in the culinary and hospitality world.
Am I right in thinking of this as fast casual?
Yes. We consider ourselves polished fast casual. So most guests, listeners don't understand the journey of that. You've got fast food, right? QSR. Then you've got fast casual. Then you've got polished fast casual, which I like to consider ourselves. Casual dining, which are your Outbacks, your Chili's of the world. Then you have your fine dining, and then you have your ultra fine dining, which is the 17 course meals and so on and so forth. So there's many different sectors, but to the broader audience, there's probably only 4.
Okay. And I guess it surprises me that at a polished fast casual restaurant that the menu is so curated that you just don't feel comfortable with it being replicated in a franchise model, huh?
At this time, probably not. Because I've also seen a few of our wonderful competitors have tried to do that. And I've also seen them fail. And I've gone in their restaurants and you'll see the franchisees potentially wearing sandals and shorts behind the line, and immediately, yep, we don't have to worry about these guys. Just because there is a certain dedication to excellence that needs to be done. And our business is all about consistency, delivering the same consistent product, cooked the same way, day in and day out. And that's a challenge, right? Because it's, broccoli. Broccoli doesn't come in this perfect form every single time. It's got its nuances of seasonality and ripeness and avocados, et cetera, plus, all of our proteins and food safety. And just, there's a lot that comes into executing day in and day out. And look, we are both by no means experts at it. We are in the pursuit of excellence, but we can make mistakes just as much as a franchisee, right? So,
Chris, how would you define the culture there at Bolay, and how are you interviewing to get the right people in that fit that culture?
Great question. So I would say the number one defining aspect of our culture would be teamwork. I think there's nobody on our team that's not willing to jump in and help and do something. And I think our team knows that, because I know at the corporate restaurant support center, our support team, we know that there's no registers at the corporate office. Our registers where the cash is collected are in the restaurant. So we need to make sure that we do everything in our power to make sure that we are supporting and our restaurant operators, the general managers, to be successful. And so I think the culture is, they know that we're there to help to get block and tackle, to help support them. But I would say teamwork to land the plane on that. And so really going into the interview questions, we have a lot of our leaders do working interviews. So we have them, join the team for the afternoon. And so they get to see behind the scenes. And look, we want you to interview us just as much as we're interviewing you. We want to make sure that you see that this is something that I want to be part of versus, just us altruistically looking at you. It's a symbiotic relationship. So it's got to work on both ends.
Let's take a sidestep for a second, because a couple of interesting stories I want to pull out here. We touched on this earlier. You were once a professional polo player, becoming the second youngest to ever win the U.S. Open Polo Championship. How did you get into polo, and tell us what it's like to play competitive polo?
Yeah, great question. Polo is the oldest team sport. So you heard me talk about teamwork in the history of the world. Started in Persia as a war game, which is really interesting. And it, you can't just be good. You have to be good, but you have to have all 3 of your other players be good. And that's the same in our business. Everybody's got to bring their A game to be successful. So I got into it because my father started playing once he had a love for horses and passion. And so once upon a time, he's won the US Open many times, played all over the world. And so I kind of grew up with seeing that later on in life and got good at a younger age. And I played the World Cup in Paris, which was exciting. I've played, a while and tried to be a professional athlete. And that's a long journey. It's tough using your body. And my father always taught me that early on, work with your mind, not your back. And that kind of stuck with me. And so, but growing up around it, it's exciting. It's sexy. It's fun. It's you travel the world. And I got good. I'm no longer the second youngest. I held that title for a while. There's been I'm 42 now, so there's a bunch of young studs that have come behind me and toppled that title. So I like to say I'm one of the youngest to have won the U.S. Open, which is the most prestigious title here in the United States in polo. And it was played with the best player in the world as well. So that helped. But yeah, and then realized that I really wanted to be in the restaurant business and go be a businessman, because I was so excited. I'll never forget it. I was playing the Hamptons, and these, stockbrokers and guys in suits were coming to the field and hearing their stories. That to me was so much more exciting than the day in and day out of doing the same thing as an athlete, which is also great. But business is fun because it's just a new set of opportunities. And I think business is a sport. I truly do. It's just on a different type of field. But hey, we got to go every day to accomplish a mission as a team, the same way you do as a sport, you know?
And you see that competitive spirit carries over from the professional sport into your building of your restaurant franchise.
Yeah.
Not franchise, empire. Let's use that
organization.
word.
Yeah. I think you got to want to win. At the end of the day, if you want to be successful, you've got to have that winning spirit in you. And I've seen, people that are winners or want to win more than the others. And I've seen people that want to win at all cost and overlook some things, and, their morals and ethics aren't correct. So I think there's a balance of that competitive spirit winning versus, and that's that balance of, winning, but also lifting others. And so I've always attributed that I want to win, but I also want everybody to do well. I want the restaurant next door to us to do well. We just want to do a little bit better, but we want everybody to do great. Because I think when the community, your whole state, your whole country, and then down the bigger side, when the world does better, when the lake rises, all boats rise. So we don't want to, we want to make sure that the whole lake rises and all the boats rise. We just want ours to rise a little bit bigger and faster.
Yeah. And speaking about your whole state doing better, you guys are, right now, for now anyways, exclusively in Florida. And I understand that when you were going to college at Florida State University, you had a special privilege there. What was that?
Yes, I was selected by the incredible Seminole Indian tribe to portray Chief Osceola, who was one of their wonderful war heroes. And we were unconquered because he was captured under a flag of truce and never actually conquered. In the Seminole tribe, wonderful, wonderful group of people here that support us. And yeah, I got to portray a wonderful living legend and represent Florida State University at all the home games and a couple of the bowl games. So that was, what a ride that was, being, no pun intended, getting to be out there on a horse with a flaming spear rearing up, no saddle, and no shoes on the horse as well. So we were slipping and sliding all over the field, but we held it together and gave the fans a great show and fired up the team. That was my job. Is we were considered the 12th man on the football team. So that was fun to, again, being part of team. It all comes back to being part of a great team.
Tell us about that selection process and meeting with the tribe.
Yeah. So there's a great family, Alan Durham, who runs the program. They've run it for many years and they hold it very coveted and very tight. And you have to be of upstanding moral character. You have to apply for the position. And it's very coveted. So they kind of go and search out for people. So I got connected through a great friend of ours, Adam Corey, who connected us to the family. And we went out and met. And I remember Alan said, "Hey, Chris, now I need to actually see if you can ride. I know you said you can, being a polo player." He didn't know much about polo. I said, "Okay." He pointed out a horse. I said, "Hey, we'll just pick one in the field." And we went out there, and most of the time you don't just go jump on a horse without a saddle or making sure that, they don't have the buck in them and so on and so forth. And I was like, "Hey, choose a horse." I was younger, a lot more fearless then. And I went out and jumped on a horse and took off and held on. And Alan comes to me, "Okay, you got the riding part." So it was full scholarship, had to maintain the 3.0, higher GPA, all home games. I was in bed the night before. I mean, it was a serious program. It was not just run around in a stuffed animal suit. And because of that, I learned a lot from the program, a lot from Alan Durham. On every day, we were at 3 a.m. on game days, washing the truck and trailer. Because if we went to that game, there wasn't going to be a spot of dirt on that trailer when we pulled in. We don't need to. I don't see the dirt, Chris. We're getting every dirt off this vehicle. And I remember just his incredible dedication day in and day out to doing it the exact same way every time. And because of that, it's been a flawless program, knock on wood, right? But I've then transcended that into our business, following the playbook every day the same way, and you will get the same result, with all things being considered, to the best ability. So I is so honored looking back on that, and I haven't talked about that in a while. So I appreciate you asking that question.
Yeah. And I hear you talking about making sure that there's no dirt spots on the trailer.
Yeah.
Hey, doesn't matter if somebody can see it or not. There's a standard of excellence to be met.
That's right.
And I'm assuming that's the same kind of thing you carry over into your restaurants today.
That's right. No, for sure.
So I know that, part of your mission there at Bolay is to fuel communities to live healthier lives. Is there a specific story you can share that, where you saw that mission come to life for one of your guests?
Yeah. So, there's so many events that we partake in, and we love partaking in 5K runs, triathlons, anything that has a community gathering together to get that heart rate up, if you will, right? Because we all need that. We're all pretty sedentary in our worlds these days. So we want to support that and be there for those events. And many people have come to learn about our brand through trying our homemade chia seed pudding, right? Or one of our homemade juices, or our lemon chicken after a long race. As if anybody's ever done a race, the first thing you want to do is put some food in you. And then we've had these stories that, over the years, we served, over 3.5 million guests last year. So in that, you got a lot of wonderful stories, and many people have come to us, oh my God. The one that resonates the most is just how much we've changed children's behavior from eating our food. That one to me, if I would look back at any one of our stories, is just how parents have come to us said that their child focuses better in school, less anxiety, less nervousness, whatever it may be, because they've eaten our food more often. And I hold that one near and dear to my heart. I've got countless stories of people coming to us and saying how much they've lost weight off of eating our food. And we've never claimed to be a health food restaurant. That's not what we're trying to be. We want to be a better for you brand that serves incredible flavor, and that's just trusted, that it's not laced with all the wonderful new additives that our creative food scientists out there have decided to make food last longer. And so we try to always have food with integrity, as best as we possibly can. If I don't put it in my own home, I won't put it on our menu, quite frankly.
Starting a restaurant from the ground up, Chris, is pretty tough. Even with the prior experience that you've had, the experience that your father has had, and all the connections that you guys were able to kind of bring to the table, what was maybe the most surprising hurdle that you faced early on, and how did you overcome it?
I think early on, realizing how difficult it is to scale the magic of your early days with their early team, that is, everybody was all in on the mission, the passion. Then when you start growing a bigger company, how do you continue that magic into new areas, new regions, new territories, new people coming in your ecosystem, right? With the training systems and processes and culture, scaling your culture. It is so difficult because cultures are different in regions. What is something here in Palm Beach County is not the same in Miami or up out of the state, and so scaling that. And I think too, 10 years is a lot of meetings, a lot of people in our team asking if we should do this or change that or alter this or do this for simplicity. And not only that, but with the headwinds that we get, COVID, the 4 horsemen of COVID after, supply chain crisis and the great resignation, and we barely could have anybody come to our restaurant or to work. And then inflation, blah, 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 and all the fun. Staying true to your brand, your training, your execution, while evolving with times changing. And this is nothing that's just our business. This is every business. But I've learned a lot of wonderful lessons that I would love to pass on to people, just how important it is to figure out your brand early on, keep it consistent, pivot when needed, constantly look for opportunities to get better, but staying true to your brand and staying true to what made you great. and never taking your eye off the ball on training and development of your people and standard operating procedures, systems, and processes. I think if I could pass that knowledge on to any entrepreneur, is figure out your brand, lean into it, own it, and never take your eye off the ball on training and systems and processes and development of people.
So, Chris, this is something I've run into as an entrepreneur, and I've seen it with a lot of my friends too. And you touched on it here. There's sort of this, questioning of, when is it that you need to stay true to your original concept, your brand, the picture that you had painted from early days, and how do you decide when it's time to let go of some of those ideas and pivot? Have you developed a rule of thumb for how to figure that out?
Never been asked that question. So, not a rule of thumb, not a specific thing that we can post on it. Obviously, I think the biggest thing as you asked that question, which is probably one of the more profound questions I've ever been asked, is you've got your KPIs in your business. And when you see one of the KPIs coming off, whatever measure that is, right? Making sure that we ask why it's changing, why it's going up or down, and then ask why 5 more times. The rule of the 5 whys. And I think sometimes we even fall short of doing that, but it's so important to really understand the root cause, getting great information from your guest, customer, however people want to look at it, great information from your team, great data, and then learning on what you can do to improve, to change that, but also making sure that you put it through, the brand DNA exercise where you're not altering your brand that your customers, guests have come to know and love you by.
That's really insightful. And I think maybe I'm kind of reading between the lines, maybe where you were going with this is, don't compromise on the brand. Like you can make changes, to suit customer needs or, to make it fit into the employee's workflow better. But, there's some core concepts, there's some core, values to the Bolay brand that you created that, you don't ever want to compromise on. Am I right?
Yeah. And understanding, why do people come to your brand? Why do people come to your product, your service? And really leaning in on that. Because there's nothing more important than trying to solve, it's not what we're trying to do for ourselves. We're trying to make sure that we're solving someone else's opportunity or their problem, right? And their problem is they don't want to cook at home, or they don't want to be in this situation they're in. They want to go to an experience and they want to have great food cooked for them and made for them and prepared for them. Because if not, they'd be doing it at home on their own, which, as we all know, doing your own dishes is not fun. And the amount of food you have to buy and cook and waste at home is so challenging. It's so challenging. And that's why I think our business serves such a wonderful need for society.
So, Chris, you guys are working on your first drive-through concept in South Tampa. Is that open? What's the timeline on that?
No, we've had it open for a few years now. And,
okay.
It's actually performing quite well. It was a beta concept to see, obviously for drive-through, for speed. And really it's for the working person who doesn't have the time. And you don't realize how challenging it is for a mom to get her kids out of a car, especially when they're still in the car seats, unbuckle them, carry them in, deal with their little rugrats. And I know, because I just kind of got out of that zone. And then get back in the car with the food. And so if you can just stay in the drive-through, order your food and hand it to you and go on your merry way, is there. So, and people, time is so precious these days. And so if we can focus on our guest time and making sure that we're there. So, it's going good. I'm not sure if it's a, long-term plan in Bolay, because it does offer some unique challenges, but we're still in it. And I think that's that. Back to our earlier question, right, Anthony, is innovation and how much you innovate and how much do you execute what works. And I think across the journey is there's those lessons learned of over innovation can lead to distraction, taking your eye off the prize and of execution. So again, that's the balance of innovation and execution.
So, Chris, let's talk about growth. You mentioned earlier in the interview being open now to strategic regional partners. Aside from that, how else do you think about growth here in the next couple of years?
So we've got a real strong 5-year vision, and it's really to increase our traffic in our restaurants, our current existing restaurants. We believe that we can do so much more in our current footprint, and getting way more involved in our communities and taking that up. Then secondarily, we believe there's so much more white space in the state of Florida to grow our brand and bring our beautiful food to and bold flavors to new communities, while also looking for great partners that can help us expand the brand outside of the state, that have, regional operational excellence. They know that this corner is stronger than this corner. Because with our smaller team, we don't have the resources right now to grow it out of state at this time. But and I think we don't care what the framework is. It's the right person. When you find the right person, the framework will fall into place and everybody will be successful, because we have more guests choosing us than other restaurants, and more so than cooking at home.
Yeah. So obviously, you want somebody who has that operational experience in the industry. But aside from that, what personality traits do you think you're looking for?
Hard work. Oh man, hard work, to understand that if you're going to be building a brand in a new community, that you're doing that. Bolay is a household name brand here in some of these parts of Florida, but it's not a household name in the United States, right? So building that name in a regional area is going to be a fun journey, but it's a journey. I think teamwork and collaboration, realizing that, hey, you're going to give us some great new ideas and we're going to put those into test and learn and get better from your ideas, but also listen to us, because we've made a lot of mistakes along the journey and we know what works and what doesn't work, and always willing to try that said procedure again, in a more controlled environment, and see what works and what doesn't work.
Collaboration. Yeah. That's key. Chris, let's take a little bit of a turn here. I'd like to hear about a big, serious challenge that you've overcome in your life, how you got through that, who you leaned on, and what you learned coming through it.
Oh man, there's a lot. There's a lot there. I think, when you ask that question, the first one that comes into it is when I started the brand. My wife was 6 months pregnant, and we decided to have a restaurant and a baby at the same time, which, as anybody could ever know. And I think I have learned that the more you throw at me, the better I do. I get very bored with a few problems. I like to have a lot of problems, and I just step up and go to work. So I think my wife and I, leaning in to take care of the kids, and she's a full-time working mom too. So that's always been one of our challenges. Another time though, it was ironic. I was working in the restaurant industry out in Texas and working 65 hours. I mean, long hours, right? And making little money, and realizing that, at that time I didn't have a college degree, because I thought I was being a professional polo player. I didn't need a college degree. So I left college and thought I could just do life without it in the United States. And what I realized was what did I learn from college? I learned to get through college, right? I think I took a lot. I was a finance major and I learned a lot about, accounting and numbers, but do I remember any of that stuff now? No. I think it gave me the ability to dig deep and learn and collaborate and teamwork. I love some of the history lessons I learned, but where I'm landing the plane here is that I thought you could be successful in America without going to college. And I really learned how many people ask you where you go to school. And if you don't really have that kind of check mark, that rite of passage, it's important. I think it's important. It doesn't matter where you go to college, I think. And, I don't think so. I think it's just that, hey, you got past that part of our society. And that's I don't know how accurate or honest that is, but that's what I felt and what I learned. And so going back to college at 22 years old in classes with 19-year-olds, you don't realize that age gap, but there's a big age gap there. I didn't go back to party at that time, which was cool. I went back to really become friends with the professor, sit in the front row, go deep. So I don't know. I don't think every person is meant to go to college right after high school. I think for me, it was a beautiful journey. It was my journey. It was different. I learned the importance of college versus just go to college. That's the next chapter. I went back because I wanted to go back. I wanted to be there and I wanted to learn. And I didn't want to go just to be part of the party, and have that fun. I really wanted to go back and get that great degree. And I think, that's something for people to think about. Not everybody's meant to go right out of college. It's good to go do some trade, go work, and understand the why. I'm always about, you got to tell me the why. If you don't give me the why, I'm like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, this is interesting because I've had a similar conversation with my wife. We both got college degrees. She has a master's. She's a speech therapist. But as I look back on that college experience, yeah, I don't really remember too much of what they actually taught us in the courses. It did, there was a lot of, life management, skill learning, being on my own, having a job, learning to study, just kind of all that independence. But there's a part of me that wonders, man, would I have just been better off in that time, like going and getting a job and just like learning, from the real world? Because I know there were parts of my college career where I sort of got stuck and I'm like, all I'm learning is how conceptually things work. I want to go like get my fingers dirty. And I'm a parent, 2 young kids. You've got 2 young kids. How do you think about it for them? Like, I hear what you're saying about like, it's sort of the box that society intends you to check, but I don't know. Guys like us, sometimes we zig when everybody else is zagging. So how do you think about it for your kids?
We're going to have a lot of open conversations as long as they're going forward, right? At the end of the day, happy and being contributing to society and going forward, developing their brain, getting skills, constant teachings is important. It's a challenging question and a challenging environment, especially now with AI and good God, the speed at which life is changing right now. I will say one of the most profound things that my father said to me, and I'll never forget it, is when I went back to college, I wanted to get out so fast. I wanted to get out, get in, done, because I was, a little older. He goes, Chris, here's some advice I'm going to give you. You got the rest of your life to worry about mortgage payments, college, making money, and you do. You only have a window of a little bit of that carefree, where you do still have a spring break and a college break and summer off if you want. And everybody's got different work ethics. But I will tell you, as you and I both know, that time away from work and pressures of life, that doesn't ever stop until you retire. And even then, I don't know if I'll ever retire. I'm not the retire type. So really enjoying that. Go study abroad. I will tell you, me living in all the countries I lived in through Polo and my study abroad when I was in college, I think to me, those worldly experiences are probably more important than some of the stuff I learned in college. Now you still need to really learn, we're going way off topic here, but to develop your brain. That brain, I talk to my kids, that's the most important thing, is it's the strongest muscle in your body and you got to work it and take care of it, feed it with great food. And keep challenging yourself too. I mean, even us in business, right? We all get caught in ruts doing the same thing. So I find myself, I'm scratching the itch to be get my PODS license, something that's just constantly forcing your brain
always pushing
to be
yourself.
uncomfortable, because growth comes from being uncomfortable. I truly believe that.
Yeah. What do you think your superpower is, Chris?
Finding the fun in everything. I can sure find fun. You put me in any situation, I think I get that from my father. No matter what, if it's sitting in a line in an airport, or I'll find the fun. If it's at the restaurant doing line check, I'll find a way to put a game in it and gamify it. I just think that I'm a serious person, but I like to I don't know, life's short, enjoy it, like have fun. Because I think when you have fun, things just you do better at it. I don't know, you just excel when you're enjoying it versus something you're not enjoying.
Okay, well, let me ask for a little parenting advice there. You've got, kids about the same age as mine, a little younger. And man, I got so many things I want to teach them and so many ways I want to try to help them with their schoolwork. But I must be like the opposite of you, because my kids look at me as like the king of anti-fun. And so like, how do you approach kids? Because I think the way that you approach kids, and you think about, we're all just big kids, right? And so if you can get to the core of how to make something fun for your kids, I think it's a little easier to translate that into making it fun for the big kids that work with you.
Well, I think a great question. I think, I take both my children, 6 and 9-year-old, to Bolay, and I say, hey, what would y'all want to do when dad goes in there to celebrate our team and kind of check in on a restaurant? And they say, I want to work the cash register. I want to serve cookies to people. Awesome. So I don't tell them what to do. I'm obviously kind of probing, and I have fun with that. And I love that. I watch my daughter jump behind the register and the team members teach them. And I just said, this is what it's all about. That's how I grew up in the business. And they get to see hard work money just doesn't come. It comes from being there and really taking care of our people. I think you have to love teaching. I love to coach and teach. I love giving my kids lessons and taking that, you could do stuff with them. And sometimes I find myself rushing through a project, home improvement project. But then I say, what's the point? The whole point of me having my kids do this is not, for free labor, because by all means, they're not easy, good labor at that point. It's to teach them and teach them how to fix an air conditioning at your home or a pipe that's busted. We love doing PVC out in our yard for irrigation, and I don't love doing that, but I love teaching my kids something new all the time. So constantly. And then when my son can repeat back to me, or my daughter can repeat back to me how to do something that I taught them, that's rewarding. Like, to me, I don't know. I think that's that dopamine that you get of, I just taught another human being, especially the most important human beings to me, or my children. And when they get to like teach it back to me or tell me or teach someone else, I don't know. Sometimes that's 90% of the time for me, I know more about that than what's in our bank account. I mean, that to me is rewarding, right?
I love it. How about some daily practices, habits, rituals for you? Get your day started, keep you going.
Yeah, and they're hard to stay on top all the time, but I have found that when I don't do these rituals, my day doesn't go well. So I can directly correlate. If I didn't do that, that's where my day didn't start off with success, right? You always hear that incredible general talk about making your bed in the morning. I think, my wife and I went for a run this morning. It doesn't have to be 15-mile run. I'm a triathlete, so I do a lot of that fun stuff. But even if you just get out there and get a 1-mile run in, you get that heart rate going. And I was talking to my wife this morning when I run, and I just said, man, what would it be like if we didn't get to see this part of the day and, seeing the sun come up or smell that air and get that day started. I think making sure that we always say we love each other when we leave the house, and never leave the house in a fight with your significant other. That's important. And I am very big on reminders, because we get so busy. So one of my secret successes, I have a lot of reoccurring reminders, and the using technology to help us. Because I think we've got so much going on that I just have these pop-up reminders on my phone. Hey, remind to do this on Mondays, or think about this. Top 3 things that you can do to move the needle. Send inspirational messages to the team. Things that come naturally, but if a lot of things pop up in the way, so it's good to just have those little, using technology to not do our work, but to remind us to do work. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you mentioned technology. AI is, here we are, tail end of 2025, top of everybody's mind.
Oh, yeah.
How are you guys using it? And how do you plan to use it going forward?
We are constantly with our fingers on the pulse on it to the best of our abilities. Remember, we're in the restaurant business. We're not tech. And I constantly am using it to help us do what we're doing faster, right? Said procedure faster, analyze this faster. Being part of it to where we're not missing it, but also not being so bleeding edge where we just focus on that. Because I think if you just focus too much on the AI aspect of it, you become, I don't know, again, it's that innovation versus execution. Where is that balance? So I think that kind of constantly looking how it can make, I want to utilize it in our business to do things that is pointless for our people to do. If it's not moving the needle for a human being to be doing it, then we should be using AI to do it. And I think that's a big part of what we do. So,
What's something fun that you like to do outside of work, Chris?
I think everything outside. I'm an outdoors person, so we love being in the outdoors, mountain biking, hiking, running, do triathlons, riding horses. I think anything. We don't sit very often. My wife and I always talk about, Mondays why we're tired. Well, it's because our weekends were just as intense as our weeks. So we go pretty hard in our family.
Yeah. What's one thing you wish more people knew about your industry?
How much goes into it behind the scenes to get that food made right every single day. And I understand that people don't need to care because we are asking for their hard-earned money and we respect that. But I also know that if people knew that what it takes for broccoli to end from the field, getting picked by somebody and planted by an incredible farmer, that journey to getting it into our restaurant, unboxed, quality, checked, cooked, served, and then also with a smile, there's a long journey there. And I think people sometimes take for granted of our food supply chain and how fragile and beautiful and hard it is to get it right. I mean, our farmers and what they do to produce our food and make the world go around is important. Because I don't know about you, but I don't have a pill yet to do all that. So it's still someone's hard work out there doing it. But again, this is why we do it. We're humbled and honored that we get to serve so many people with our hard work.
That's really cool. Chris, I've just got one more question for you today, but before I ask it, I want to do three things. First of all, anybody who wants to get in touch with Chris directly, best way to reach him is on Instagram at Chief Chris Gannon _Bolay. What's the chief part of it for? Is that Chief Executive Officer?
No, I was Chief Osceola at Florida State. I got to represent Osceola in amazing pageantry. And so I've always kind of just held on to that chief word. So it's kind of fun.
I love it. And we'll have a link to that in the show notes. Also, you can email them at info@bolay.com and any relevant messages his team will forward directly to Chris. Also, as a reminder to listeners, if you want to get more employees access to benefits that won't hurt them financially and carries a financial upside for the company, reach out to us at addbackbenefits.com. And finally, if you'll take just a moment to leave us a comment or review on your favorite podcast app, you will hold a special place in my heart forever. Thank you very much. Last question for you, Chris. A year from now, you and I reconnect and you are celebrating something big. What's that big thing you hope to be celebrating 1 year from today?
Sounds simple, but Chargrill's completely rolled out at all our restaurants. So we were doing oven, now we're going back to Chargrills, and it's a daunting task to re-put those back in our company, our culture. And I think along with that, the growth mechanism of building restaurants again in a very controlled approach. I would love that.
Explain to me the different effect of oven versus char-grilled and why the switch.
Oh, it's a deep conversation, but really the flavor enhancement when you're giving that Maillard reaction, which is the charring effect on a protein, get it just right. It just, as you know, put a piece of chicken in an oven, put a piece of chicken on a char grill. and you taste them side by side. And when you get it right on the Chargrill, it's infinitely better. It just puts that beautiful smell of barbecue-ish, that kind of char smells in the restaurant, not barbecue, but just that great searing smell in our dining rooms. And it gets us back to being not push button people, but really set it and forget, chefs with culinary passion. And it's a big initiative within our brand right now.
Well, it's really cool. Chris Gannon, CEO and co-founder of Bolay, I want to be the first to thank you for sharing both your time and your story with us today. I really appreciate it.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of the Inspired Stories podcast. Thanks for learning with us today.